Hello everyone, welcome to another video in our collection on Python programming for geospatial data scientists. The topic we are going to cover today is simple, and the video probably will not be very long, but it is very important, very integral component of programming languages, and particularly Python language. And a major motivation for many of us learning Python for GIS work. A major motivation for many of us learning to do programming for geospatial sciences is automating our processes. Very often you want to calculate something and you have to repeat this calculation for different data sets, for different geographical areas. Or you have some kind of workflow in your studies, in your work, and you need to apply that same workflow to different areas. So imagine, you probably know how difficult that is if you're doing this in a software. But if you have your workflow in Python programming, then it's very easy to reapply that workflow on different processes. And if you need to repeat the same thing, if there's a big data set you need to iterate over, or you need to create a map for the same map with similar characteristics in different areas, then you may end up using a for loop to automate the process. So that is what we're going to learn today, and hopefully you will get better at using it during this whole course. So let's get started. Okay, so in our last video you worked with lists. That was an example of a collection type, and it's a good way of showing how important it is to learn to use for loops or iterators in Python. So let's start with a list of items. So we have some European cities: Helsinki, Paris, Barcelona, and Uppsala. So I define my list. All right. So now we have the cities. So if I want to print the name of the cities in my list one by one, so if you have no prior knowledge of for loops, if this is just the beginning of Python for you, and you have just learned how to use lists, you probably end up doing something like this. So you will just go ahead and access the items in your list using their index value one by one. And as you can imagine, this is going to take a while, especially if you have a bigger list. So this is not efficient, this is not scalable, this is not repeatable, and it is against the whole idea of programming and why you're learning to write programs. So not only this is not efficient, but also it's not like you cannot apply it to other places. So if you use the same logic, if I just, let's repeat this one more time, accessing the third item on the list. So if I go ahead and update my list, or just apply the same logic on a different list that has one less item, I'm going to get an error here that this is out of range. So this is a back example of coding, a code that cannot adapt to different situations, so it's not repeatable. So hopefully this gives you some idea why we need to learn to write for loops or create automatic loops. Yeah, so let's see how we can do that actually. So I'm going to recreate my list with some different cities, starting fresh. So I have my list of European cities. This time I'm working with Amsterdam, Brussels, Lisbon, and Reykjavik. 4 great cities in Europe. So if I want to write a for loop, and in my loop I want to print, so very often you do this to do some calculation or store something in your dataset or database. But in our case, we just want to print out the name, as simple as that. So let's see how we can do that. So as I mentioned, one of the great things about Python is that it's intuitive. So you're basically talking to your computer in plain language. So for city. So this is the syntax. So for is the word for starting for loop. It's a reserved term. The next thing is a variable you're defining. So this is just a variable. It can be anything. In what are you iterating? So you have to have an iterator. So here we are working with lists. So I'm going to just use lists. I'm looping inside this list. And then we have a colon. So we're telling Python that, okay, we have a block of code starting here. So everything that happens after this colon within the same indentation is inside the block of code. So you can see that Python automatically adds indentation. So by default, it doesn't matter what it is, but many programming software apply 4 spaces just as a good coding practice. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces were inserted here. So in Python programming, in some programming languages, you have different kinds of brackets to create blocks of code, or you use these semicolons at the end of the block of the code. In Python, we don't have that. Instead, it relies on indentation. So when you start a block of code, now you're inside the for loop, it automatically adds some indentation or some gap at the beginning, telling you're essentially telling Python that you're inside this for loop. And inside this for loop, you can just do what you want. So I'm going to print the name of the city. So as I said, this is 4 spaces. It could have been a tab. It can be more spaces or less. Doesn't matter, as long as you are consistent within that certain block. It's good to remain like consistent throughout the script, so your code looks nice. But that's not essential for Python, at least. For Python, it's essential that the indentations match where they need to match. So if I put another piece of code here, if I want to repeat the same printing by like just writing twice the name of the city, if I run this, I'm going to get an error because Python is confused. Where is this? Is it inside this for loop or outside? There's no matching block. So it has to be in the same order. So you can see we are printing the name of the city once, twice. This is the twice, once, twice. So this is just an example of just indentation. You will get used to it, just be careful with it. So what is happening here? We are looping around, we are iterating over the items in our list. Each time the value is read and loaded into city, and then you can do whatever you want with that variable. You can do some calculation, you can print it like what we are doing here, you can, I don't know, store it in a database, append it to a list, so many different things. So this is a variable name. It can be anything. Just remember that you will be using this inside your for loop. So as long as you're it's the same logic as using variable names. Choose something that is acceptable and intuitive and understandable. So this just saves you a lot of time. So this was a short list of 4 cities, but imagine if you have a very long list of a lot of numbers, values, city names. It's going to save you a lot of time. So now let's do. Now let's try the same thing on a longer list. So I'm now going to work with some US cities. Let's move from Europe to US. And now we have some cities from Detroit all the way to Orlando. And I'm going to write a for loop, doing the same thing. So for city in US cities, remember to put the colon. Again, I'm going to print the name of the city and nothing else. So it works very quickly, prints the name for me. So the syntax is very simple. For some variable name in what? In an iteratable item, which is a list in our case, and then do something. So this is the structure of a list, which is very simple. This is one way of writing a for loop, but very often we might use a range function when we are writing a for loop, especially when we are working with lists. So let's start with a simple example. So for value in, so instead of looping inside a list, I'm going to use a function called range. So range is a function that returns you range of values. So by default, it starts from 0 with up to a limit that you specify here. So this will give us values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So up to 4. So 5 is not included here. remember that. So by default it starts from 0 and the steps are 1. So let's print the value. It gives you this kind of number. So as you can imagine, this is quite useful because it's following the same logic as indices, like in the indexing in the lists. You will very often end up using this range function to loop over lists and accessing different items, because you can use these values to access items. Like you can use them as index numbers. So that's why it's very useful. As a reminder, if you need help to see exactly how range works, because there are a lot of details involved, many small changes you can make, you can use help to get some information, but you can also Google online. Let's go with an example. I want to write my for loop using range in a way that I would end up with this set of values. So 2, 5, 8. So how do I do it? So, well, the starting value is 2. The ending value is 9, because, you know, when you use the upper value in range, that upper value is not included. So if you specify 9 as the upper value, it will go up to 8, which is what we need. And the steps between them are 3. So it's 2, 5, 8. So between 2 and 5 and between 5 and 8, we have a 3-step. We have a step of 3. So so this is how I would write the for loop to get this kind of output. So for I, just short for index, some random variable name in range. So you can specify the range. So last time we went just with the upper limit, that's the bare minimum you need. But you can also provide a starting value and then the upper limit. And the third value you can provide is the steps. So how long are the intervals? So this is all we need for getting the output. And of course we need to print it out to the screen. So from 2 to 9 with the steps of 3. And it's going to give us 2, 5, 8. So as I said, this is very useful, especially when working with lists. So now we are moving on to another list of African cities this time. So let's change the continent one more time. So we have a list of African cities starting from Dakar all the way to Kampala. And let's define our list. So this time I'm going to loop over the list using range, because I want to access the items one by one using their index value and use them in an F string that we learned about before in one of our videos. For I in range, so what is the upper value here? So you can of course add it manually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 items. Or even better, to automate your code so that it's bulletproof, so that it can also work with other lists without changing the code, you can just get it automatically. So how do you do that? We already saw in the previous video that you can use the len function to count the number of items in your list. So I will count how many values we have in African cities, and I will use that number as the upper range of my list. And once I get that, I will do what I need to do here. So I'm going to write an F string in which I first put the name of the city coming from the list. And remember that we are getting index values one by one. So start using the I value. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So we are iterating through the list. So it's an F string. So remember to put the curly braces. So the African city is at index I. So just a little example showing you how you can use the range function to iterate over lists and do some calculations, or in this case we are just printing an F string. So you can see we are iterating through each city, printing the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a good example of how you can use the range function to iterate over lists. So why would you use index value? There might be many different scenarios where this might be helpful, but at least I can mention two. If you want to update individual values in a list, you're likely going to need a loop that includes the index values. To update a list value, you need to refer to both the list and the index, which means looping using the list values directly will not work. There are functions such as enumerate that can make this easy for you, but for now we are just going to keep it simple and use it the range function. So that's one of the situations that you want to update a value. There are other cases that you may want to have. You may have multiple lists that are like corresponding with each other. So you might have a list of cities and a list of countries, and they are corresponding. So the index 1, index 0, the first item in the cities is in the country in the same order in the other list. So I will use an example like this and see how we can work with it. So we have a list of cities and we have a corresponding list of countries, so you can see that they are matching. So Helsinki is in Finland, Stockholm is in Sweden, Oslo is in Norway, and so on. So let's run this cell and get the lists defined. So then I'm next going to write a for loop. So for I in range len cities, I'm iterating through my cities and they have different similar length, so it doesn't matter which list I'm applying len on, and then I'm printing the city, then writing that is the capital of a certain country. So I'm getting the index values, and because these are corresponding, I can use the same index value to access both of the lists. So this is just to print something, but you can imagine a scenario in which you may want to calculate something, do some kind of operation. Let's go with another example before we wrap this up. So we have two lists of odd numbers and even numbers. So if you write this kind of for loop, what do you think will be the output? So we have two lists. We have odd numbers, 1 to 9. We have even numbers, 10, 4, 6, 8, 2, in some random order. And if you iterate over them, they have the same length. And you're basically iterating over them using range function, and you're adding them up. So you end up with 10 and 1 summed up. So 11, 7, 11, 15, and 11. So let's run this, and yeah, I guessed it right. So yeah, so that was a short video on for loops. Hopefully it was clear. As I said, you will end up using for loops quite a lot. So I have no doubt that you will get very good at this. So see you next time in the next video.